The old-timers always say, you never know what the woods are hiding. I used to laugh that off. I'm a woodsman, a hunter, someone who feels more at home with pine needles under my feet than pavement. I thought I knew every sound, every track, every secret the forest held. But one afternoon, in the deep green heart of the Pacific Northwest, the forest showed me just how wrong I was. It started with a sound, not a deer crashing through the underbrush, not a hawk's cry, not even the growl of a cougar. It was akri, a high-pitched, desperate wail that sounded unnervingly like a human baby. I froze, my hand instinctively going to the hunting knife on my belt. My first thought was a terrible one. Had someone abandoned a child out here? The idea sent a chill down my spine, colder than the mountain stream nearby. I moved toward the sound, stepping as quietly as I could. The cries came in bursts, filled with a kind of raw panic that made my own heart pound against my ribs. They were coming from a dense thicket of ferns and fallen logs just ahead. As I got closer, the sound changed. It was still high-pitched, but there was a guttural, animalistic quality to it now. It was less like a baby and more like something else. My mind cycled through possibilities. A bobcat kitten, a fawn separated from its mother. Pushing aside a heavy branch, I peered into the clearing. And that's when I saw it. Curled up at the base of an ancient cedar tree was a small, dark shape, whimpering pitifully. It was covered in thick, dark brown fur, and it was tiny, maybe the size of a small dog. My immediate thought was, bear cub. A wave of alarm washed over me. Where there's a cub, there's a mother, and a mother bear is the last thing you want to surprise. I scanned the surrounding trees, my senses on high alert, listening for any sign of a 200-pound mama bear about to charge. But there was nothing, just the whisper of the wind and the desperate cries of this little creature. I took a cautious step closer. The cub wasn't moving much, just shivering and crying. It looked hurt, or maybe just lost and terrified. My woodsman instincts warred with my human empathy. The smart thing to do was to back away slowly and leave. Don't interfere. That's the first rule of the wild. But I couldn't. I couldn't just leave this little thing to its fate. It sounded so helpless. I decided to get a slightly better look, just to see if I could tell what was wrong. I crouched down, moving inch by inch. The creature finally noticed me. It stopped crying for a second, and two big, dark eyes fixed on me. They weren't the beady, black eyes of a bear. They were different. They were expressive, filled with a recognizable fear and confusion. They looked almost human. That thought was so strange, so out of place, that I dismissed it immediately. My mind was playing tricks on me. "Hey there, little guy," I whispered, keeping my voice low and calm. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The cub whimpered again, a softer sound this time. It tried to push itself up, but flopped back down, letting out another cry of pain. It seemed to be favoring its right leg. As I got closer, I could see its face more clearly. The fur was thinner there, revealing dark skin. The nose was flat, not the long snout of a bear. The ears were rounded and set on the sides of its head. Every detail was sending a signal to my brain that something was fundamentally wrong with my bear cub theory. This wasn't a bear. It wasn't a bobcat. It wasn't any animal I had ever seen or read about. My mind was racing, trying to categorize what I was seeing, but it kept coming up empty. The creature was like a bizarre, impossible blend of an ape and a human child, covered in thick fur. I was only about 10 feet away now. The little thing was watching my every move, its large, intelligent eyes following me. The fear was still there, but there was something else too. A flicker of curiosity. It was so small, so vulnerable. Whatever it was just a baby, and it was in trouble. My heart made the decision for me. I couldn't leave it. I slowly extended my hand, palm up, to show I meant no harm. "It's all right," I said again, my voice barely a whisper. Let me see your leg." And then it happened, the moment that shattered my understanding of the world. The little creature, this impossible being, looked from my face to my outstretched hand. It whimpered softly, a questioning sound. And then, slowly, deliberately, it lifted its own tiny arm toward me. I swear, my heart stopped. Its arm wasn't a paw. It was an arm, and at the end of it was a hand. A perfectly formed, 5-fingered hand, complete with tiny fingernails. It was smaller than a human baby's hand, and covered in fine, dark hair. But it was unmistakably a hand. It reached out, trembling, its tiny fingers uncurling as they came closer to mine. I couldn't breathe. My mind was screaming. Bigfoot. Sasquatch. The stories. The legends. The grainy photos and blurry videos my buddies and I would laugh about around the campfire. It was all real, and a baby one was right here, in front of me, reaching for me. My first instinct was to snatch my hand back and run. This was beyond anything I was equipped to handle, but I couldn't. Those big, dark eyes were locked on mine, and they held a plea for help that transcended species. It was the universal look of a child in pain, asking for comfort. With a deep breath that shuddered through my whole body, I closed the distance. My fingers gently touched its skin was warm, leathery on the palm, and the hair on the back of its hand was surprisingly soft. It let out a little cooing sound, and its tiny fingers weakly curled around my index finger. The grip was surprisingly strong. In that momento, fear vanished. It wasn't a monster. It wasn't a myth. It was a living, breathing infant, and it was trusting me. I carefully examined its leg. There was a nasty gash on its thigh, caked with dirt and dried blood. It must have fallen. Where were its parents? The question sent a fresh wave of anxiety through me. An adult Bigfoot. I couldn't even imagine. They were said to be massive, powerful, and fiercely protective. But there was no sign of them. No tracks other than the small ones from this little guy. No sounds. It was as if it had been left behind. I knew I couldn't leave it here. It would never survive. I had to do something. Carefully, I scooped the little creature into my arms. It was heavier than it looked. Solid and muscular, but it fit perfectly against my chest. It cried out once, a sharp yelp of pain. But then it settled down, pressing its face into my jacket and clinging to me with its little hands. Its body was warm, and I could feel the steady beat of its heart against my own. As I held this tiny, impossible creature, I looked around at the silent, ancient forest. It was the same forest I'd walked 1,000 times, but now it was completely different. It was deeper, more mysterious, filled with secrets I was never meant to know. I'd crossed a line, stepped into a world that exists in the shadows, just beyond the edge of our own Primera de No plan. I didn't know what I was going to do. How do you care for a baby Bigfoot? What do you feed it? And the biggest question of all, were its parents looking for it? The thought was terrifying, but as I stood there, with this little life clinging to me for survival, I knew one thing for sure. I was going to protect it. I had to. The woods had shared its greatest secret with me, and now, that secret was my responsibility. My life, as I knew it, was over, and a new, unbelievable chapter had just begun. Thanks for watching. If you've ever had a strange or unexplainable experience in the wilderness, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales from the edge of the unknown. See you next time.